Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
It's the beginning of the end.
Da, da, da.
Final season begins. That angers me that he can't fold that pizza.
I had the same note. Wait, do you not like that part of the movie? Because that's the movie.
No. I thank God every day I know the lyrics to Enter the Sandman.
After brutal dumping. No, that sounds terrible.
After I took a brutal dump.
Hi, I'm Mike Butler.
And I'm Mike Field.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us. Our podcast is available on all platforms with a backlog of over 200 episodes for your listening pleasure.
What's going on?
Nothing much. I'm doing well. You know, I was just looking for a new job, as I normally do, on the spinning job board of spins that go way too fast to read.
That's a great job board, though.
Yeah, I got a job at a mailroom. Somebody jumped out the window, and then bang, boom, I am the president of a company.
Sounds great.
I had this idea, too.
Okay.
It's a circle. You know, for kids.
Greedy executive Sidney J. Musburger hopes to take control of the company he works for by purchasing a majority share, but he must first devalue the stock. So he convinces the board to appoint know-nothing recent graduate Norville Barnes. But Musburger's plot backfires when Barnes' latest invention succeeds, thereby increasing the company's value. Worse yet, undercover reporter Amy Archer has the scoop on Musburger's shady dealings. We're talking about the Hudsucker Proxy. I can't believe we haven't even said the title yet.
We didn't even say the title.
Awesome. So you had not seen this film, right?
I have not.
Interesting. Okay, so the Hudsucker Proxy has a runtime of 111 minutes. It's rated PG. Production budget of anywhere between $25 million and $40 million, depending upon what you read. Its limited release date was Friday, March 11th, 1994. Its opening weekend, it did $104,000. Domestic, $2.8 million. International, $7.5 million, for a worldwide total of $11.3 million. Production company was Silver Pictures, Working Title Films, and Polygram Filmed Entertainment. And it was distributed by Warner Brothers in the United States and Rank Film Distributors in the United Kingdom. So instead, it came out on the 11th in a limited release. It went up against in a wide release Lightning Jack and Guarding Test. Guarding Test, actually, it's actually okay. Yeah. Limited.
People have a problem with that movie?
I think it's overlooked often. I think it's an often overlooked film. Limited release that week. You had 4 weddings and a funeral. Why do I have a wide release for The Ref? That can't be right. That's got to be a re-release. When did The Ref come out? Did it come out in March?
I think it did, because we had...
Fun fact, we did The Ref.
Because we had an issue with it coming out at a weird time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Ref came out in March and we were mad at it. Yeah.
So right. Mind you, we did the Ref episode
it was
months ago. More than it was 2 years ago, because I remember the commercial we did, because I stumbled through the Dennis Leary stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
That was like 2020.
Wow. Was that 2020?
Yeah.
Wasn't 2021? Wasn't last Christmas?
Maybe it was 2020.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways. So, like I said, The Ref came out that Wednesday before, the 9th. The week before that, the March 4th, you had, I'm going to go backwards here. In a wide release, you had Greedy, which was an episode we did. The Chase, we did that for Forgotten February or Forgotten Takeover for the plane.
The Chase we did for Forgotten
Takeover?
Yeah.
I think it was Takeover.
Takeover was one of the first movies.
You had Angie and What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and then the limited release of China Moon and Sirens. The week after, the March 18th, you had, this is a week after the 11th release date, you had in a wide release Naked Gun, 33 1/3, The Final Insult, and Monkey Trouble, and you had a limited release of Mother's Boys, Bitter Moon, and The Paper. You ever see The Paper?
Yes, I had to watch The Paper in journalism.
The Paper's really good.
Yeah.
So this movie is if you didn't know already, this is a Coen Brothers film, and I am a big fan of the Coen Brothers as well as Butler. This movie was directed by Joel Coen, who's done Burn After Reading, an episode we did, Blood Simple, The Tragedy of Macbeth. That's the more recent one. That's on Apple Plus, I believe. Mm-hmm. He won an Oscar for Fargo. He was nominated for an Oscar for Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And he was nominated for 2 Oscars for No Country for Old Men. It was written by Ethan Coen, Joel Coen, and Sam Raimi. Ethan Coen has done Suburbicon. This is the movies that he's written. Mm-hmm. Bridge of Spies, Unbroken, and Gambit. I tried to find movies that he also didn't direct. Joel Coen was nominated for an Oscar for The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I think they both were for writing. Bridge of Spies as well, and True Grit. So they both wrote Bridge of Spies. I probably, my credits are all messed up here. If you don't know who Sam Raimi is, check out Evil Dead, the series. He also did Drag Me to Hell and Spider-Man. He actually wrote Spider-Man 3, but not the first two. But obviously he directed the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
That's too bad that he wrote Spider-Man 3.
Well, he's one of the writers. It's
Spider-Man
actually,
3 is bad.
listen, it's not as bad as I think. If you go back to it, I agree with you. I'm not going to defend it because it's got moments, but it's not as bad.
I haven't watched it since the theater just because.
I hear you.
There was one time I was flipping through the channels and I was like, all right, Spider-Man 3, I'm bored. I got nothing to do. But it was the scene where he gets like bad and it's the music video kind of one. And I was like, nope, I'm out.
It's so corny. It's so corny. But yeah, I hear you. Okay. This film's cinematographer was Roger Deakins. He has 15 total nominations for cinematography for Oscars. He's won 2, 1917 and Blade Runner 2049. Composer was Carter Burwell, who was nominated for, I basically copy and pasted from the last movie we did with Carter Burwell. He nominated for Oscar for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and Carol. He's also done The Founder and The Banshees of Inisherin, which will be on Disney Plus soon, or now. It's on Disney Plus.
Oh, it's going to Disney Plus?
I saw that and that I was like, see it soon on Disney Plus. So by the time everyone listens to this, which is in April, probably late March, early April, maybe.
I was wondering myself. I think this is late March.
Yeah, it'll be already be out Disney Plus. So hope you had a good holiday. Edited by Tom Noble. Who did won an Oscar for Witness and was nominated for an Oscar for Thelma and Louise. Produced by Ethan Coen, who's produced Bad Santa and all of the Coen Brothers films. This movie stars Tim Robbins as Norville Barnes. He has won an Oscar for Mystic River, nominated for an Oscar for Dead Man Walking, and he's also in Shawshank Redemption, of course. Jennifer Jason Leigh as Amy Archer, who was nominated for an Oscar for The Hateful Eight. She's also in Dolores Claiborne and Single White Female. Paul Newman as Sidney J. Musburger, won an Oscar for The Color of Money. He was nominated for A Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. He actually has 10 total Oscar nominations, which is pretty amazing. When I think we've talked ad nauseum about Paul Newman in our Nobody's Fool episode.
Correct.
We're big fans. Charles Durning as Warring Hudsucker. He was nominated for 2 Oscars, one for the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas and To Be or Not to Be. And he's also in Dog Day Afternoon. John Mahoney as Chief. You may know him from Frasier. He's the dad in the TV show Frasier. He's also in Moonstruck and Barton Fink. Bill Cobbs as Moses. He's in Demolition Man and That Thing You Do. Harry Buggin as Aloysius, who's in Barton Fink and The Big Lebowski. Aloysius and Moses are like almost like good versus evil in this movie, which we'll get into a little bit. Bruce Campbell as Smitty.
Yeah, the gin.
He gets smacked around a lot. He's obviously from Evil Dead and the TV show Burn Notice. Peter Gallagher has a little role in here as Vic Tenetta. He's a singer in this movie. He's in American Beauty and While You Were Sleeping. It's Steve Buscemi in here as Beatnik Barman. That's a great title. As Reservoir Dogs, Ghost World, most of the Coen Brothers films, Armageddon. And then Anna Nicole Smith, who pretty much had her voice dubbed in this movie. As Zaza. She plays like, she's like his girlfriend, Norville's girlfriend when he gets really big. But like she says, oh no, she does talk when she's with the
bellhop.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be Zaza Gabor, right?
Yeah, I think they're all like,
but she doesn't even. They don't even do a real impression.
No. All right, so this is I think only one of 2 Coen Brothers films that are PG. And this is often a Coen Brothers film that people don't watch, or people just either don't I don't know if they don't like, but they just don't watch, or they don't gravitate towards.
I didn't even really know about
it
until you were talking. Obviously, we've talked about this movie since like season 1. You bring it up, but
yeah,
I had no idea what this was.
I mean, this movie. I mean, I like I like most of the Coen Brothers films. I don't. If they don't work, it might just be because I'm just not into it, or I'm just like, oh, okay, that's okay. But I never have a problem with in terms of like the filmmaking and the storytelling. But this movie has one of my favorite moments of all the Coen Brothers films, and that's from when they're selling the hoop to when the kid picks it up and the music's playing and that score is playing, and that whole section of the movie, which is probably about 10 minutes, maybe, is one of my favorite moments in Coen Brothers films.
That could be a short film in and of itself, like, right there. Yeah,
I love that. I love the opening of Raising Arizona when it gets to the title credits, like 10 minutes into the movie, and you hear the guy yodeling and the song comes out. I love that. I love the end of Raising Arizona when he's like, maybe Utah. Like, so there are moments in Coen Brothers films that I love. This is one of them, that moment in this film. We can get to that. But I'm curious because Butler has never seen it. Give me, I guess, did you like it? Did you not like it?
I did like it. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was, I mean, there are a couple of lines I really like. It was pretty goofball, but it wasn't maybe as goofball as I thought it might have been. It really reminded me a lot of another movie we did that was maybe a little too wacky, and now it's escaping my mind. Of course, I didn't write it in my notes.
Same time period?
Yeah, we did a movie that was like really weird. And I think you liked it, and I wasn't a huge fan of it.
Not Brazil.
No, there are moments in this movie that do remind me of Brazil, though.
Well, it's very stylized. This film is a very stylized film.
Oh, you know what? It kind of reminded me. Some parts reminded me a little bit of Toys, like a Toys that worked. So we did that on the Pint.
Did I like Toys?
No, I don't even think it's Toys that I'm thinking of. It reminded me of a few movies. But parts reminded me of Toys, but a Toys that worked better.
Right.
But I liked it. I like from the opening shot, and it's the miniature of New York. I thought that was
very
nice.
good.
I was like, oh, that's a nice miniature.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way it's shot, which, like you said, even I don't really like No Country for Old Men at all, but I love the way it's shot. There's no Coen Brothers movie that I've seen so far. I think I only have a couple more left to watch, where I haven't loved the way it was shot.
Right.
It's just, they have such a vision. Like, obviously their cinematographer has a lot to do with it.
Well, you get, but
people that they work with.
The argument also could be made is that these cinematographers that work with them like working with them because they know what they want.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
They don't have to come up with it on the fly and stuff.
Right.
Like that.
They're working with comparable filmmakers and storytellers, and don't kid yourself. People, cinematographers and composers, all these people, they're part of the movies because they love movies. They want to be part of good stories.
Right.
So yeah.
So like the cinematography is just awesome. I love Tim Robbins. I think he should have been in more stuff. He still needs to be in more stuff. I like when he won Oscar for Mr. River. He's really serious. I like when he's goofy. I like when he's the everyman. I like when he's this.
Right.
So I really like this. I really liked him in The Player. So that was nice to see him. I like Jennifer Jason Leigh was awesome in this movie.
Right. Yeah.
She was so good. I've never really seen her in too much stuff, I don't think, or where she's more the focus. Like obviously she was in The Machinist, but she doesn't have a lot to do in that.
Right. Right.
She's so front and center in this, and she does that old timey newspaper voice so well. Yeah. And her character is awesome. So I really like this. Obviously, Paul Newman's really great.
Paul Newman's awesome.
As like this villain, not villain. I love the way he's not super villainous, but he's still kind of a villain.
Yeah.
The whole thing is I just thought overall it was really well done. Would I put this on the top of my list for Coen Brothers movies? I don't know.
I probably wouldn't either. I think there's just so many good things.
There's just so many good ones. Close to the comedy ones. I mean, I guess, but how many comedies have they really done?
But see, I can go back. See, the thing is too, like I used to, before we did Burn After Reading, I liked Burn After Reading, but when we watched it again, I was just like, wow, I really there was parts in it I really like. So I think their movies are movies that when you watch, you have to watch more than once.
Oh, the dialogue always, everything comes a mile a minute.
Right.
There's always something. Yeah.
I mean, look at Miller's Crossing, what we just did. I mean, Miller's Crossing is kind of serious, but it has moments of levity that are almost as funny as the moments in this film.
Yeah. Miller's Crossing is a nice blend of both. I mean, it really is a drama, but it actually has a lot of good comedy in it.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about, because you were talking about characters, talking about Jennifer Jason Leigh and Amy Archer and her kind of like fast talking 40s, 30s and 40s and 50s kind of newspaper woman.
That's right. Like this stuff. Yeah.
You know what you're thinking about? You're thinking about The Front Page. That's the show. That's the movie we did. With
maybe parts
Walter
of it
Matthau
were
and Jack
definitely
Lemmon.
right,
Okay.
yeah. Which I love The Front Page. So it's not like that's not a movie.
No, but I'm saying like that's similar to that. So
that is similar. Yeah.
Why don't I talk about the Moses and Aloysius characters? Because I didn't get, what's funny is when I first watched it, and I always remembered that at the end of the film, Norval jumps, or he slips and falls, but at the end he wants to jump, and Moses stops the clock because Moses is the narrator. He's the guy who oils the clock and makes sure the clock goes. He talks about time. You don't really catch that. He's obviously somebody who knows a little bit more about everything. He knows everything. So he's obviously a character that when you first meet him, you're just like, okay, so he's some kind of like an overseer, like he's whatever.
Well, obviously the clock tower floor is connected to all the bigwigs, so he gets to hear everything.
But you also get
there's more to it than that.
But so he stops the clock, which stops Norval from falling. So he's clearly a supernatural element there.
He's God, essentially.
I don't know. See, I don't know if he's God, because then what makes Aloysius?
Satan, the devil.
See, but I can
or an angel, and
that's what I was thinking. Like maybe he was like the archangel
demon,
or something like that. Maybe it was kind of like that. Like he's So, but I never realized.
It's a Wonderful Life.
I never realized that Aloysius was that. I knew that they fought, but it never clicked in my mind when I first watched it. That, oh wait, he stopped time. Why is Aloysius still moving? Then I'm like, oh okay, wait a minute. This is like good versus evil.
Yeah,
and that kind of. I'm talking about this watch of this film. That something I never realized before. And it kind of, it was so minor though, because they didn't really hit you over the head with it.
Right.
So, but it was just a small part of the story. Did you like that aspect?
I mean, I like Bill Cobb's, and I did like the little fight, I guess. But stopping time in and of itself, I was kind of like, the movie never got that over the top. Maybe if they had something at the beginning that showed me something similar.
I mean, it starts off with a voiceover, which I know we always talk about how I don't like them. But
it's told like a story.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
It's almost like a Christmas story, but it's a New Year's story, which people are right now. It's perfect for us to watch this film.
Sure.
Because it's like almost New Year's. It's close to the holiday season. But when we're releasing this, it's late March. We should have done this for our Christmas episode. But I think that definitely put me in the mood. So when I was thinking about it in that terms, I was like, I'm okay with the clock stopping because it is kind of a holiday.
Which is, it's a fairy tale.
Like a holiday movie, fairy tale.
Yeah.
But yeah, at first it was kind of jarring. But then I got used to it. I did like the good versus evil kind of aspect to it.
And that's they have like kind of like a small fist fight in the clock. And that whole set is great. I love the inside of the clock. That's a nice little set. Yep. I love Musburger's office where the clock hand comes down. I would love an office like that.
And it's neon at night.
Yeah.
But it's also like huge and jarring. Very like.
Yeah, both their offices are super long. You have the whole scene where he first meets Norville, and they have the whole it's like a slapstick comedy where he's trying to put out the fire and he's dragging the water bottle across the entire rug, and Musburger's not paying attention to him. He's just, get out! What are you doing?
Yep. Yeah. Trying to open the window and it's sealed shut.
Yeah.
Which windows? Like obviously the movie starts with Warren Hudsucker jumping out his window, which he's going to do as he keeps looking out the window. It's like, this dude's either his soul's leaving his body or he's jumping. And then he gets on the table. It's like, oh, snap. And then another executive tries to do that later on when Norville's idea starts selling. Yeah. And he hits the window. And I'm like, oh, plexiglass. Had it installed last week. I was like, that's awesome.
By note, because at the end of the film, Moses wraps it up at the end and he talks about how, now that's the story of the guy who tried to jump off the 44th floor. He's like, well, that's like another guy who tried to jump off the 45th floor, but that's another story. I was like, when's that story coming?
Hudsucker 2. That's another thing. I love it when they're talking about the floors. It's 37. No, 45. No, 44 if you don't count the mezzanine, or 46 if you count the mezzanine.
Yeah, when they're back and forth, the vice presidents and the presidents. Yeah.
But at the beginning, is Paul Newman in the scene at the beginning when he jumps out the window? Is
he
on one of those? Okay.
He's not, because he's in his office or something like that.
Oh, they do explain where he was during that?
He's just not there. And then he's there in the aftermath. They cut back to him and he's in the office when they have the broken glass and they're looking out.
Yeah.
So he's just not there.
Clearly he was in the building, but
yeah,
he would have been in the meeting.
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
They don't really there's really no reason for him to be in the meeting, because if he doesn't stop Hudsucker, if you show him and he doesn't stop Hudsucker, then immediately
then
he's
he
evil.
Is the villain. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you do show him going, oh no, then you kind of like, okay, so is he the bad guy? Does he feel bad? Like just stuff like that. So you really don't.
Well,
the joke is funnier where you have the presidents looking up and they're like just staring at him and dumbfounded, like what's going on. I just love when they cut to the shot of him running. It's like, he's clearly not running fast enough to make that jump.
Oh no, I was thinking the same. I was like, can he even make that?
Yeah.
He's doing he's wind up too. He's like, left side, right side. You're not making this jump, buddy.
So you liked Tim Robbins in the lead, but did you know that Joel Silver wanted Tom Cruise?
I saw that and I was thinking that'd be interesting. It's definitely would have been a really doofy role for Tom Cruise to play. So it would have been really off character, which I would have liked to see. Tom Cruise not playing a cool guy, other than obviously in Tropic Thunder, but then he's under all that prosthetics. He kind of stops becoming Tom Cruise at that point. But this would be Tom Cruise being just...
He'd have to be goofball. Would he be able to do that? I don't know.
Tom Cruise, always, when he has to do emotional work and stuff, he always surprises people. So.
True. That's true. Maybe we're not giving him the credit.
But I like Tim Robbins doing it as well.
Tom Cruise, if maybe 10 years, 15 years from now, a little older, he would be able to do the Paul Newman role.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He would be able to do that Paul Newman role. 100%. I didn't realize that speaking of Paul Newman, they actually offered the role to Clint Eastwood. They originally wrote the script a long time ago.
Right. 1984, they offered it to Paul Newman first.
Well, they wanted Newman to do it. He couldn't do it. So
Right.
they didn't want to do it. They shelved it. Then they offered it to Eastwood and he said no. And they went back to Paul Newman. I don't know if I think Clint Eastwood would have been all right too. You kind of have that like that older tough guy in the role. I think that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, but I don't know if Eastwood was in the role. I might have thought of him more as a straight up villain than maybe Paul Newman.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Newman's just kind of a backstabbing businessman. He's just like when Hudsucker comes down as an angel, he's like he's a shrewd businessman. He's a wolf.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he is. He's a villain in terms of this story, but he's not a villain in terms of like maybe being a person.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Eastwood, I would be waiting for Eastwood to like, I'm going to finish him off myself. So I don't know.
Maybe.
I'd be waiting for like a garrote wire and it's like,
The other thing I didn't know was that I didn't realize that Joel Coen worked as an assistant editor on The Evil Dead.
oh yeah,
Now, was that the original one or the one they remade it?
that was the original.
So when the one
They
that he
were all
shot,
living together in a house.
but the one that he shot in the gymnasium in New Jersey.
That's Evil Dead 2.
Okay, that's the second one.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. I did not.
They had somebody else and they had more corporate people looking over their shoulder during
Sure.
that edit.
Sure.
But the original one, it was just kind of like, hey, I got this. Can you help me out?
Yeah.
Because they went back into the freezing woods and lost actors. They were all just like Paul. I think it was Bruce Campbell, the Coen brothers, Francis McDormand, Sam Raimi, Ted Raimi, and then maybe one other person.
That's
in the
pretty
same house.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh, Rob Tappert as well.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that Bruce Campbell has
just made the
not.
movie.
I know he's been in Coen Brothers films, like little pieces here and there,
Right.
but he's never like been. This is like probably the longest of his roles in a Coen Brothers film.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm surprised I've never had him on anything else.
Yeah, when I was watching this, it's like their friend, they kind of grew up together, but maybe they had a falling out, so maybe that's why you don't see him in other things.
But he was in Fargo. He's on the Spanish soap opera that they have on the TV.
That's right. I haven't seen Fargo in so long. I haven't watched that movie.
So maybe after that, but he's in. I'm just very shocked that he hasn't been in more with them.
But Bruce Campbell's also kind of Bruce Campbell. He's such has such a cult following and is like, when Bruce Campbell's in something, I think it kind of draws you out.
You think?
Almost. For me, it does. So I guess Bruce Campbell.
Maybe.
So maybe that's why they don't do it.
I mean, it didn't affect Burn Notice. I mean, in terms of like him being a Burn Notice, the TV show, like that was he didn't overtake that.
I thought he stole every scene he was in, but yeah.
Oh, really?
I thought so.
I watched like the first 2 or 3 seasons, then I got tired of it because I was like, it's the same stuff happening.
He's more in it as the show goes on. And I think there was a TV movie just about him as well afterward. Just about his character.
Oh, really?
I think so.
All right.
I didn't watch that. I just think there was.
So I didn't, another thing I didn't realize was that the Warren Hudsucker death is actually inspired by a real life incident. 1975, on February 3rd, Eli Black, the CEO of the United Fruit Company, smashed an office window with his briefcase and jumped to his death from the 44th floor of the Pan Am building in New York City. Oof. It's like, what did they just hear the story and like, hey, let's write something around that?
It could also be another thing where like it's definitely inspired by this, but maybe not necessarily.
In most films that are shot in New York or are about New York, especially older films, are usually up in Toronto because they still have that architecture, or sometimes Cleveland. But this one was shot at Carol Co Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's primarily the scale set, the what you were talking about. But those models that they used were also used for The Shadow that we did, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, and Godzilla.
See, because one of my notes is a lot of this reminds me of Batman Returns.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I'll use one of the Batmans. Yeah.
Because that's a snowy gothic kind of thing.
Sure.
And it's very like Gotham City, and Tim Burton's one is very much uses that architecture, and there's all the snow.
Okay.
And also in Batman Returns, I don't know if you remember Christopher Walken's character.
Yeah.
His office building is very much like that, like high-rise architecture.
When he's sitting looking out. When he's in the room.
Like pushes Selena Kyle out.
Right.
It's all very similar to like how they're kind of that like 1984 Brazil kind of stark architecture kind of thing.
The mailroom reminded me a little bit of Brazil, a little bit like that kind of vibe.
The mailroom, the mailroom. And then when they're doing the all the clerks are together trying to price everything. I was like, this is like absolutely Brazil. And they also remind me of like an army of Colin Robinsons from like What We Do in the Shadows.
I like when he puts down, he gets the
big
open book, the huge book that they put together, and it's like cost to make 59 cents, sale price
79
70 cents. And the guy's like, and then he writes the one for 70. It's just like, all right.
Yes, 80 times more. I love the characters trying to name the thing.
Oh, that's actually Raimi. I think
Raimi's the guy sitting down.
Yeah. God, fellas. You
got something. Tell me you got something.
I got something. That's part of the whole moment where I really love that whole thing. So, I mean, because I know we're going to get into all the stuff we like, but give me something maybe you didn't like or something that was unforgivable. Not unforgivable. You know what I mean?
I don't know if there's anything unforgivable in it. The one thing that kind of bothered me a little bit was, oh my God, he's the main character. Norval's intelligence or his doofiness.
Yeah.
They really played both sides of it a little too much and kind of took me out of it in some moments where because he's such a doofball. He's such an idiot. But at the same time, he made the Dean's List every year, voted most likely to succeed. No one made fun of him growing. It's like, but he is a doofus.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have rather him like having scraped by on the edge of his teeth, kind of a nice guy, like a bumbling nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he makes it based on being just nice and knowing people.
Mm-hmm.
But they made it more just, he's an idiot. He's intelligent. He's an idiot. He's intelligent. A little too much for me.
Yeah. Well, and also when he gets the position of president, he becomes a douche. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which kind of comes out of left field.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's talking when he meets Amy and he doesn't know that she's a reporter. She thinks she's just someone that
needed a job.
Right. Which we can get to that moment too. But because he acts like a douche a little bit and he doesn't ever really listen to her, but still he kind of, when he drafts the letter, because Amy Archer writes a piece about him, calling him an imbecile.
Right.
And he wants to fire off a letter to her. And he's telling obviously Archer, who he thinks is his secretary or his.
But she wrote the article.
Mimeograph, right? But he can't say mimeograph throughout the movie. He starts putting out something and he's like, you know what? Don't send it. You know, she's just trying to do her job. But it's like, I know that's trying to be a moment where she sees that he's a really nice guy, but I don't ever. I mean, it's almost like the argument can be made that she falls in love with Norval because that's the movie and it's plot. And that's
absolutely,
what happens.
yeah.
But there's never really a moment in the movie where I believe that
I agree
that
with
could
that,
happen.
yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with the way Tim Robbins played the character. You're talking about the doofiness that you said, which he does when he does the dance and he does the thing and yeah, that whole stuff. And it's very similar to, I had a problem with, what was the movie with Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet when he
Beautiful Mind.
Right. No, not a Beautiful Mind.
Beautiful Sunset. No, Eternal Sunset of the Spotlight.
Yeah.
Eternal Sunset
of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
I know that they were a couple. And that's the whole that revolves around their love affair. They love each other. I never could buy them as a couple. That kind of bugged me throughout the entire film. I never bought that relationship. So the same thing here. It's not as much as in that movie. In this one, I just don't buy the relationship as much, only because I don't get enough in the movie for me to believe it.
Would you have believed it more if he didn't like those moments where he's like, she's just doing her job, and then goes into like making fun of her again, the reporter again?
I don't know,
like 2 or 3 times, because that's what kind of bugged me about it. It's like for every moment she starts to fall for him, he says something not just doofusy, but like mean.
There's never a genuine moment for me for Norval until he hits rock bottom and he's depressed. Sure. And that's when he's just like, and that's almost, then I believe like he understands that he screwed up and he did everything wrong and he messed up and whatever.
Right.
And, you know, but like the whole stuff beforehand, there wasn't a moment where I really felt like he was I really thought I was really meeting the real Norval Barnes. And that just, maybe I need an extra scene. Maybe I just missed it. I don't know. That was kind
of him being nice to the employees.
Maybe there's just some disconnect there. Yeah.
Helping the elevator guy.
Yeah. That whole stuff was, because then he just, but I guess it's farcical at that point. You're starting to go into surrealism where he's like, yeah, he said you stole the idea from me. And he's
what about that?
Yeah. Like that stuff.
I meant like before that though, like if I had seen him being a benevolent ruler first and then saw him kind of that decline.
He kind of turned into that, you saying? Like Musburger turned him into that?
Obviously, yeah, the fame and fortune and stuff. Yeah. But we never really see him being a super nice CEO either.
No, you're true. This is true. This is true. And you also don't see... You see Paul Newman for a little bit. You see the Musburger character. He puts him in office and then he just kind of disappears. He's running the company.
Right.
But he doesn't really pay any attention to Norville.
He's waiting for him to mess up on his own.
Right.
Which is why he's not really like a villain in a more classical sense that you would normally see in maybe a business movie. He's like, let's hire this fool because he'll destroy the company.
Right.
And he does a pretty good job at destroying the company.
Until he gets hits it big with the circle.
But then the circle kind of fails after a while.
Well, yeah, because
You can't do this. You got one hit wonder. What do people say about, well, I got hula hoops for the large. I've got hula hoops for the thin. I've got hula hoops with extra sand for those who need for the hard of hearing. An automatic hula hoops for the lazy.
When he does the joke, he's like, I don't know what all the hoopla is about. Everyone loves it. Then he tries to, I don't know what the hoopla is about. You can quote me on that. Everyone's just like, oh.
I love that all the ideas are circles in the movie that you see.
Oh, the frisbee at the end.
The straw with the bendable straw and the frisbee.
Yeah.
I like this.
So when Norville presents the hula hoop to the board, I was impressed that he could keep hula hooping the entire time.
Oh, so I was like, is he gonna? And I
thought, I was like, maybe this is digital. I don't. But there were a couple moments where he almost lost it and he had to go down and get it again. So I was like, no, he's really hula hooping throughout this entire time. This is like, I can't even probably keep up maybe 15 seconds. Like,
yeah, I can't go for that long.
And they cut. There's different cuts in it, and he doesn't do it for one long shot, but it's about 30 to 45 seconds where he's doing
pretty impressive. Yeah. Then the little kid who finds the hula hoop.
He's clearly somebody who does that professionally.
But he's still a little kid.
Oh no, he's great.
And he's like, going. He's on his head.
And the kids are all coming around screaming, just like, it's going to work. I love it.
I love that the prices are like free with every purchase. And then the stickers come back on.
My filmmaking brain's thinking like when they throw the hula hoops into the alleyway and the one hula hoop continues on because that hula hoop they follow when it goes to the kid and then he does it. I'm like, how did they get that hula hoop to do that? Like, I'm thinking like, how did that happen?
It's a lot of takes.
I'm wondering if it was like that. Yes. Or they specifically, it's not like the others. There's some way where like, it's gotta be something.
Maybe. But hula hoops do turn like that if you try to like.
No. The fact that it stood up, that it went ahead, went to the right. I get that. I mean, I think that I had maybe they were pulling it along or something. It was great because I was just like, how is that hula hoop staying up?
I think it probably just was like a lot of takes.
I really dug the pants flashback.
Oh, the pants was so good. Single. Oh, I got you by the pants. You want the double stitch?
Yeah.
Why the hell would I want that?
So Paul Newman's hanging off the side of the building because he's trying to go after the papers that Norville opens the window and all the contract papers go out.
Leave.
And he goes after him or Norville grabs him. He's like, I got you by the pants. And it cuts to Newman. He's like, pants. And it goes back to his tailor. The tailor's like trying to give him, you want the double stitch? It'll hold longer. No, you're trying to raise up to rake, charge me more for that double stitch. Single stitch is fine. And then it goes back to, I love when it goes back to him. He's just like, oh. And then you come the flashback you don't need. He's just like, Mr. Musburger's a good client. I'll give him double stitch.
He's a nice guy. I'll give him double stitch. And then the pants stop ripping.
That's just so like, it's just so random. Stupidly funny. I love it. Yeah.
The scenes in the newsroom are really, really good.
Yeah.
Between everybody. I mean, I like
that takes a lot of rehearsal.
John Mahoney as like the chief, like reminded me of like a Perry White from like Superman.
Oh yeah.
Just like super grizzled, like classic newspaper guy. And then the reporters all like making fun of each other and their stories.
The Perry White from the comics, or the Perry White from the Superman, the 1979, 70 Supermans.
The comics older ones and the old Supermans.
Yeah, not Lawrence Fishburne or
no, he's a very different Perry White.
Yes.
The ones from the comics and that are very like gruff, like old school newspaper reporters.
Yeah.
And he's got the cigar box. Everyone's trying to get his cigars. Slaps him down. I thought all that was great. I liked some of the lines. Like everyone has like, you doing an article? Who's he got? Where's he from? How many people are? Does he have parents? And the reporter's like, everybody's got parents. Well, how many? And it's like all those questions are so good. And then the bet they make, I bet she. When Annie comes in, I bet she mentions her Pulitzer. You're on.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say anything, and then she leaves, and then she comes back, and they pay each other. Oh, I lost the bet. And she comes back and goes, I'll stake my Pulitzer on it. And they give back to 20. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that she slaps Smitty a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah. Come on, we'll go get a highball.
Yeah, let's get a highball. Slaps her in the ass, and she tries to hit him. He blocks it, and she hits him
in the other face.
And he's got that great, like, because it says a couple times, gags got whiskers on it. Like, because so when they first meet in the diner, she's obviously trying to get his attention. You got the taxi cab guy, and I believe he's the bus driver.
Yeah.
And they're narrating it, and they're just it's a great thing.
That's a great narration.
Yeah.
And they both have gas.
Yeah, gas. Wait, get you guys anything? Bromo.
Yeah. Bro. She goes, oh, he's not falling for it. Maybe he's smart. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's smart. Maybe he's dumb. Oh, she's going to waterworks. Oh, she's not going to do it, is she? Oh, she does it. And he faints. It's like, oh, that's awesome.
I went to try to guess the ailment that her mother-in-law or her mother has. Lumbago. Do you know what lumbago is?
I've heard the word before, but I have no idea.
It's just lower back pain.
Oh, is that it?
Because I've always heard it too.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm looking this up, and they're like, lower back pain.
I love the line at the end too. Like Norville gets like the best line, one of the best lines in the movie, I think, when he's all like stressed out and Andy tries to win him back, and then he decides he's gonna go off the roof and jump off. So he's leaving the hipster club, and then he turns to her and goes, "And you, how could you lie to me of all people? You, a Muncie girl." After she straight up told him that she was a reporter instead, he still thinks she's actually a Muncie girl. I was like, that's so dumb.
Was it the Paul Newman line when he goes, every step he took was a step up, excluding this last one?
Yeah. Except for this last one.
One of the moments I like with Norville is when he's like talking to Archer. And I think it's when he's complaining about he's complaining about the imbecile article that came out.
Okay.
And he's sitting there and he's like, would an imbecile come up with this? And he spins around the circle. It's just a picture of the circle. Because it's a circle. But every time everyone sees it, nobody says it. They're like, they think it's like a great big idea.
Well, no, they think he's an idiot.
But it's like, until
he actually builds the thing.
Yeah.
And they just look at him like, That's what, like, the circle is what makes Musburger at first think he's perfect for Barnes is perfect for CEO, because he's just like, that's the idiot I need.
But then he hears that he's like,
goes, did anybody make fun of you? Call you dumb? Call you slow? No. You did, but you didn't go to school. No, I went to college. Graduated school of business, actually. But you got poor marks. No, Dean's List. All right, get out of my office. So, just to go back to some behind the scenes stuff, we talked about the Moses and Aloysius stuff. There's different motifs in the film, narrative motifs that pertain to the Rota Fortuna and the visual motifs concerning the shapes of circles. So you have the Moses monologue at the beginning, the hut where he's talking about that, the clock. Right. Yep.
The wristwatch, Musburger's wristwatch. Obviously, we've just been talking about the circle, the hula hoop, and the frisbee, and the straw, the circle there. And then there's a conversation that Norville and Amy have about karma, which he calls it karma. Does he call it that? I don't think he calls it something like this. He's like,
he calls it something stupid.
You call it
like,
karma. She says so.
But the Hindus and the Hips and the Beatniks both believe.
Yeah, they call it karma. So it's about the capricious nature of fate. So that's basically where you get all that from. When you know that, when you read that, everything else in the movie kind of starts making sense a little bit more, especially the fate aspect with Moses and Aloysius. When they start fighting.
Like when Peter Gallagher appeared during the party in the film, I really thought he was going to start being a major character in the movie. I was really surprised it was a throwaway cameo because they focus on him. He sings the song. I'm like, all right, so he's going to compete for like Amy Archer's affections, or he's going to move in on the company. There's going to be something with his character. And he never showed up. And it wasn't until the credits start rolling, go, what the hell happened to Gallagher? Which
is interesting because it's not like he's not new. While You Were Sleeping is 93. So, that was a decent role for him. And he's been in other stuff. I think American Beauty's 99. So this is like in Peter Gallagher's time frame when he's doing stuff. I think, wasn't he in that TV show, one where it takes place in Orange County?
The OC?
He was the father, right?
Dads,
So he was like, that was around this time, right? In the 90s?
No, OC was 2000.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Early 2000.
I thought it was the 90s. I'm lost. But anyways, he's still doing stuff. So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he just popped on to do it.
He probably just wanted to be in a Coen Brothers movie.
Maybe. I love the way he sings too. He's just kind of like he forgets to keep saying that he's going to drink. He's like,
But I thought it was really good. I thought he was really good. and I really thought something was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But Buzz was really good too.
Hey, buddy.
Like, hey, buddy. Ah, buddy. Come on, buddy. Ah. And then like, I love how at the beginning when you're introduced to him and he's like, he knows everybody's floor. Mr. Ford, the 37th floor, 36. Walk down. And he just shouts at him. I thought that was awesome.
So Roger Ebert.
Come on, Ebert. Don't hate on this movie.
Praised the production design and the scale model work and the matte paintings and the cinematography and the characters, but, quote, but the problem with the movie is that it's all surface and no substance. He wrote, not even the slightest attempt is made to suggest that the film takes its own story seriously. Everything is style. The performance seemed deliberately angled as satire. Now, okay, but I've seen movies that have done that and it's praised. I mean, like you're right. That's what they're doing.
The whole thing is a satire. It's a farcical satire on business films and stuff like that.
That feels like somebody that wants the movie to be serious and doesn't like the fact that it's not serious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then maybe that's because they're not used to Paul Newman being in this type of role.
Yeah. Or want it to be more silly, like stupid.
Right. So, I mean, but again, movies are subjective. So, what are you going to do?
Sure.
Desson Thompson of the Washington Post described the Hudsucker Proxy as being, quote, pointlessly flashy and compulsively overloaded with references to the films of the 1930s. Missing in this film's performances is a sense of humanity, the crucial ingredient in the movies Hudsucker is clearly trying to evoke. Hudsucker isn't the real thing at all. It's just a proxy. I just talked to you about Rota Fortuna and that whole nature of fate. And so I just talked to you about stuff that deals with humanity.
What also you talk about all the time is when reviewers try to get a good quote for their articles.
Yeah.
And being able to say it's just proxy is probably so clever. But that guy's just like, yeah.
So I'm going to end this with
I can end this
proxy.
with this word. Yeah. Look at that.
People are going to love it. People are going to love it.
The one thing I will agree with that review is that kind of goes toward the character of Norville.
Okay.
Not really having enough character maybe. But other than that, I think that especially the character Amy Archer might be a little overblown, but she's absolutely got character. She's supposed to be representative of all those 1930 characters.
Yeah.
And then Paul Newman's Musburger, I was just talking about how I think he's an interesting villain because he's not as villainous. He's like an actual
He's a businessman.
Yeah.
He's in the world, in the business world. Yes. He's like you said, he's a shark.
Right.
But that's not necessarily a villainous role in business.
Exactly. He's just a businessman. That's part of what you do.
If he went out of his, yes, the things he does in the movie are not great. They're immoral because he's trying to tank the stock so he can keep the business, and he screws himself over because obviously the blue letter says that it could.
He didn't even give the blue letter. That's grounds for dismissal.
John Simon of the National Review described this movie as asinine and insufferable.
What the hell is with these reviewers?
Right. Finally, we got a movie where the reviewers are like anti-us. One last thing before we get to the stuff we do at the end, unless you have other things. Is that Phil Hartman on the speaker system down when he's in the mailroom and they're making the announcements?
Oh, it might be. At one point, I thought John Goodman was doing some. Was it this movie or maybe the other movie that we're going to do?
He does,
but
he does announcements in one of the other things. I don't think we talked about it. I think one of the movies we did, he was doing.
Because there was one part where I thought I heard John Goodman's voice, I think, in this. But it could have been Phil Hartman in the newsroom. I think the newsroom scene was just so Brazil to me. I think that's what I was looking at. And the set work in the newsroom. And then the old guy. How long you been here? 45 years. He's throwing the mail. What do you usually do with the envelopes when you have to fold them? Or when the box is too small for the envelopes because it says you can't fold them?
Yeah.
He goes, I usually just throw them out. 45 years. They're going to boost me up to parcels next week.
Any quotes you liked other than the ones we talked about?
I mean, Walk Down was really good. And then A Muncie Girl. I like the name Extruded Plastic Dingus, which is the original name for the hula hoop. I also like...
we already talked, for kids. That's what he says all the time.
Yeah, for kids, which is the same with the Frisbee, which is also a circle, which is all made by the Whammo company. So they use Whammo products. I was waiting for I thought the Slinky was going to be his next invention. Or I thought that maybe
yeah.
the invention was a slinky after all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The straw, the bendable straw is kind of that a concept.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So they're all circles. I do like the line, get a story. J. Edgar Hoover, when will he marry?
I know. I love the whole monologue that when Norval gets the job and the guy's describing the mailroom's he's just describing everything and everything's like he'll dock you punch in late and they dock you, and he's just doing the whole thing and everything's like file a faulty complaint and they dock you, and he's just doing the whole thing.
Your number is 45724. You got to remember that. Here, can you deliver this? I love when he's the president of the company and he calls Norval. Yeah, didn't give me your punch
The
card.
receipt. Yeah, I need the receipt for the letter. Yeah.
Let's see. I'm actually the president. I don't care if you're the president. I need this. I thought that was good. But yeah, there's so many good lines in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So who would you recommend this to?
I think a lot of people would enjoy this movie if they gave it a chance. Anyone who's like, okay, like it's definitely kind of, you couldn't make this now. I don't think there's an audience for it now.
Oh, I think there's always an audience for this. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't do business.
Right. But I think that if there's anybody who likes movies from the 90s, I think that this works. I think there's everything about this worked well. I think Tim Robbins is really good. Paul Newman's really good. The set design is phenomenal. The cinematography is great. And the story is fun and it moves. It's quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's an hour and what? We said 51 minutes?
Hour and 111 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
What I said. Right? Yep, 111 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's an hour and 50. You're right, hour and 51.
But it doesn't feel like that. It moves pretty quick. It feels more like it's like an hour and a half, maybe hour, 45-minute movie. Like it moves. It doesn't stop. It gets to the point really quick. There's a lot of stuff to watch. I think this would be a great movie night movie or a great like 2-part movie.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say if you watch like a serious Coen Brothers movie, you can end with the Hudsucker Proxy to kind of end on a more upbeat note. I think it's a great winter film. Like I said, I think it was great that we watched this close to Christmas.
Yeah.
Everyone else is going to listen to this episode in like late March, but go ahead and watch it. It's still a good movie. And it's not like super holidays. But I think that just kind of adds a little flavor to it.
Right.
So yeah, anybody who's okay with like 90s movies or Coen Brothers movies that are maybe lesser known, I think they should give this a shot.
Yeah. I think it's a film that because it's set in a different time period and it's got a bunch of sets and costumes, you know, they're wearing obviously like costumes of the 30s.
Right.
That it's a movie that is timeless. Like it'll last longer. You know what I mean? Like a lot of movies you watch are so dated. Oh, that's so 70s, you know, the way it looks or shot. But this movie feels like a movie that could last for a while.
It's stylized enough that, yeah.
I think it's often overlooked by people who watch Coen Brothers films just because it's not, they do stuff that's offbeat, but it's always usually tinged with a serious nature. Like Fargo's got some funny moments, but Fargo's about a murder, kidnapping plot gone wrong. You know, like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou's got some levity moments, but it's about a guy looking for money. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, same thing. So there's more serious nature to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, even Burn After Reading is
people are getting shot in the head.
That's a goofball comedy, but there's a lot of violence and darkness in that.
So I think because maybe this is PG as well, maybe that turns people off. But I agree with you. I recommend it to everything. I mean, are we saying that that's why it's forgotten? That same concept? It's just not a typical Coen Brothers film.
Yeah, I mean, I think I brought it up during Miller's Crossing. They've just done so much. Their breadth of work is just so wide. And I think when you think of comedies, you're going to think of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, even though you just talked about how maybe there's serious stuff, or Raising Arizona. And those are kind of the two main ones. Or also, you talk about Lady Killers in terms of ones that aren't good.
I like Lady Killers, but I understand.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
I know. That's fine. But I like Lady Killers.
But, you know, so I think those are the three that you talk about when you talk about their comedies. The bad one is that one. And then the other two are great. And then everything else is, everybody talks about No Country for Old Men. Everybody talks about all their other films. And it's mostly, I think, No Country for Old Men at this point. But I think that you should go back and watch some of their earlier stuff, because stuff like Hudsucker Proxy is great, and Miller Crossing is great, and they're overlooked just because they've done so many amazing films. And I think it's a quote unquote problem. It's obviously great for them, but I think it's bad for their older movies that might just not get looked at.
Right. Yeah. Where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenEntertainment.com or ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com. If you're on ForgottenEntertainment.com, check out all the other great podcasts and media we've got for you guys to consume. Go ahead, consume those little things. And then, while you're listening to us, Wherever you're listening to us, drop a like, rating, subscribe. All that good stuff helps the podcast. And that's what I got.
All right. And join us next week as we're going to 2001 to watch a film. We're going to watch something completely different. In a lot of aspects. Well, I mean, it's
in terms of it's making fun of corporate culture.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I guess we're going to be doing Josie and the Pussycats. That's next week. Try to contain yourself. So until then, everyone have a great week. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.